Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tiro Anachari. Yamuna Tiro Bonachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Sri Radha Madhava ki, Sri Radha Giridhari ki jai. Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajika Jaja Srimad, His Divine Grace of I Charanad Avinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajika Jaja Shuddra Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Gosa Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Anandakoti Vaisnava Brinda ki jai. ISKCON Foundacharya, BBT Foundacharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Jagaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakti ki jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees. All glories, Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So there's 4 special events today. Now I have a question, just so I'm not make a decision on my own as if I know what the complete cosmic situation is. But on these days when there's a lot to be said, I usually spend most of the Bhagavatam class, or if not all of it, reading about these personalities. Now, should I do that, or does everyone take it upon themselves to read as much as they can during the day, the biographies and so on? Or should I do this? Okay, because usually, especially 4 activities today, if I go to a Bhagavatam verse, it'd be 5 minutes, and I won't do that justice. So I just wanted to know. Okay. So today we'll be reading a little bit about Sri Balaram Rasa Yatra, Sri Krishna Vasanta Rasa, the appearance day of Sri Vamsi Vadana Thakur, and Sri Shaimananda Prabhu's appearance. Okay. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshulinminitam Dina Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svabadantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sri Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakapatarubhashta Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So by your good wishes and prayers, I'll say a few things today. So this first is the Balaram Rasa Yatra. And it says, in order to keep the gopis in Vrindavan satisfied, Lord Balaram stayed there continually for 2 months. So he went back to Vrindavan, and he stayed for 2 months, namely the months of Chaitra and Vaishakha. For those 2 months he kept himself among the gopis, and he passed every night with them in the forest of Vrindavan in order to satisfy their desire for conjugal love. Because Balaram had his own group of gopis that were attracted to him. Thus Balaram also enjoyed the rasa dance with the gopis during these 2 months. That's from the Krishna book. And Krishna, Sri Krishna Vasanta Rasa. You know what Vasanta means? Vasant? Springtime. So it's a full moon, Purniyam, and it's in the springtime. So it says the Purniyam or full moon of Damodar month is the second full moon of the autumn season. It's called Shrad. Shrad is the autumn season, right? And that's the big Rasa Leela that we celebrate. And the second Rasa Yatra is celebrated more in Bengal. That's this one. Whereas the first one is celebrated more in Vrindavan. On this day, one should perform full worship of Radha and Krishna with many flowers and place them in a rasa mandapa surrounded by the gopis. So at least you can do that in your mind. Okay. Sri Krishna Vasant Rasa is similar, excepting that it is in the spring. Vasant. At this time, everyone dresses in yellow. Okay. On the full moon night, the devotees usually leave out pots of sweet rice, payasam, for the Lord to enjoy during his rasas. So Mukunda is making that arrangement, and a pot of sweet rice will be left on the altar for the Krishna, Radha, Giridhari, and the gopis to enjoy during their rasa yatra, and then maybe for breakfast it can be distributed like that. Okay. So the third one is Sri Vamsi Van. It's interesting. It's spelled 2 different ways here. Sri Vamsi Vadana and Vadananda. So he appeared today on the full moon day of the month of Chaitra in a particular village. And let me skip ahead here. So when Mahaprabhu came from Puri to have darshan of his mother in the river Ganges, he stayed for 7 days in the house of Madhava Dasa Kuliya. That's Vamsivadana's father. So he stayed in the house. At this time, he excused Devananda Pandit along with all the offenses of everyone else. That's another story. Therefore, the place came to be known as Aparad Banjan Pat. There's probably a lot of Aparad sthanas around this world, people being forgiven. Okay. Now, if anyone feels tired during class, they can grab some of the deity laundry and fold it, if you want to do that. You can move from green beans to deity laundry if you're tired. You just grab a cloth and set over there. So Sri Vamsi Thakur appeared in the home of Sri Madhava Das. His mother's name was Srimati Chandrakala Devi. Vamsi Vandananda is the incarnation of Sri Krishna's flute. Krishna's flute can come and be part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. On the day of his birth, Mahaprabhu was present in the house of Sri Madhava Das along with Sri Advaita Acharya. Madhava was very devoted to Mahaprabhu and was also very affectionate to him and his son Vamsi. Vamsi was present at Navadvip when Acharya Prabhu came there. So he was engaged, Vamsi was engaged in the service of Vishnu Priya and was the receptacle of her unlimited mercy. One time, there's an interesting story here. One time, Vishnu Priya Devi and Vamsi Thakur decided to give up taking food and water, there not being any point in maintaining their bodies, which were so racked with the pain of separation from Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, did not approve of this, and he manifested himself before them. Then he requested them not to behave so rashly, and then instructed them both to worship his deity form in order to mitigate their feelings of separation. After Vishnu Priya's disappearance, Vamsi Vadana brought this deity of Mahaprabhu from Mayapur to Kulia. This deity of Mahaprabhu is very beautiful and still worshipped in the present town of Navadvip. The name of the temple and the deity is Dhameshwara. Has anyone been to that temple? Dhameshwara? I was just there. It's quite interesting. I was telling someone what happened. I was there with, what's his name? Brahmachari comes here from time to time with the Sankirtan devotees from L.A. He's a disciple. Yeah, he had a bunch of brahmacharis with him. And they put us right up by the altar. There's a little area, about like where the fountain is, kind of there, right? And then there's a kirtan thing over here. And the kirtan started, and these 2 or 3 ladies, like middle-age, old age, they stood right up next to us with gongs, banging them as loud as they could. And one was right here next to me. And I was thinking, this is really far out. It's like I couldn't believe it. Just like wham, 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 wham. I said, boy, this is interesting kirtan going on here. It was a very, very kind and merciful deity of Mahaprabhu. There, right there in Navadvip. You can go and see the deity of Dhameshwara, Mahaprabhu. It is said that the name Vamsi Vadananda is carved on the underneath of the base of the deity. Okay. Then it talks about his descendants and so on, and different deities and so on. He was a poet and a composer of songs. He composed one song about the Lord's acceptance of sannyas, based on the lamentations of Sri Sachi Mata and Sri Vishnu Priya. That must be a very intense bhajan. Like that. Okay. Now, Sri Shyamananda Prabhu's appearance. So, it's good. Right. Because there are 2 different spellings of his name in this. Okay. But it seems like the way it's broken is not Vadana Ananda. You see, you have that too, right? Well, this doesn't have diacritics. What I have doesn't have diacritics. We know we're talking about the same person, though. Okay. So, Krishna, what did I just do? What I wanted to read a little about Shyamananda Prabhu, of course, about his appearance, but that he was a very, very, very advanced devotee of Krishna, and some pastimes of how advanced he was, but at the same time, he was a very, very powerful preacher of turning everything around in Orissa. Okay. Okay. Okay, okay. Oh, here we go, starting here. Okay. Now, when he was born, he was given the name Dukkhi. Dukkhi, and the reason, which means the sorrowful, like that. We used to have a devotee here, Sukhi Bhakta, and sometimes when he was in a good mood, they called him Dukkhi Bhakta, like that, Dukkhi Sukhi. But the reason his parents gave him the name Dukkhi was because before his birth, his siblings that had taken birth, they'd all died in infancy. So his parents gave him the name Dukkhi, which means sorrowful one, in hopes that Yamaraj would remember that, his brothers or sisters who had born before him had all passed away, and then be a little merciful to the parents, like that. So that's why he was given the name Dukkhi, that Yamaraj would spare him, like that. That's interesting. And it says he was born approximately 1 year after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya. So that gives some a framework as far as when he made his appearance. And at a very early age, he was very, very Krishna conscious, all his different studies of the Vedas and Krishna conscious literature and bhajan and so on. And as a teenager, he wanted to immediately go and take shelter of a spiritual master, Hridoy Chaitanya. And his father let him go. Understanding he was actually a great soul. And this Hridoy Chaitanya, his guru is Gauridas Pandit, very famous devotee and follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And let me see, a little bit about Hridoy Chaitanya. It's said that the deities of Gaur-Nitai at Gauridas Pandit's home, temple, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda personally went there and posed for them to be carved. So they looked just like Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And during one kirtan, it became so ecstatic, and Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda were there at the house performing the kirtan, but the kirtan became so ecstatic that the deities of Gaur-Nitai jumped off the altar and joined the kirtan. So they had two Gaur-Nitais dancing in the kirtan, and then the pujari, I know some say Gauridas Pandit, some say it's Hridoy Chaitanya, came off the altar with a stick to chase the deities back onto the altar. And at that time, the deity of Lord Chaitanya jumped into the heart of Hridoy Chaitanya, and that's why he was called Hridoy Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya went right into his heart. So those are the deities. And that's a little bit about Hridoy Chaitanya, how advanced he is in his Krishna consciousness. So eventually he took initiation. I think then he called Dukkhi Krishna Das, was given the name, and eventually he told him to go to Vrindavan and take shelter of Jiva Goswami. So he spent some time there in Vrindavan, and then we know that the teachings of the Goswamis, the Jiva Goswami decided amongst the preachers there that these should all be packed up and sent to Bengal. And there was that whole pastime which was read about Narottam Das Thakur, Shaimananda, and Srinivasa Acharya. The three of them together were deputed to take all those books to Bengal, the writings of the Goswamis and so on. And of course the books were stolen, but they were recovered. They divided up. I think it was Srinivasa Acharya stayed in that area to recover the books from that one king and turned him into a disciple. Narottam Das Thakur went to Bengal, and Shyamananda returned to Hridoy Chaitanya's ashram, and then he told him to go to Orissa. Go to Orissa to help the preaching there in Orissa. And let me see where this is. I just wanted to bring this up because this is very interesting here. It's a description of the condition of life in Orissa at that time. Maybe we'll come back, I guess. Yeah, let me read about this. Okay. Orion commandos. Okay. What happened was that eventually Maharaj Prataparudra, his reign he was conquered by the Muslims, the Pantans. And the whole temple of Jagannath was taken over by the Pantans. They just stopped everything. So you can imagine, even today, let alone those days, the whole state of Orissa fixed on Jagannath. And then the whole thing's closed down. And the Muslims are there, persecuting everyone and using the temple for who knows what. I know the Sri Rangam temple was used as a horse stable. So the Muslims would come in and who knows what they would use the temples for. So, and this went on for quite some time. You can imagine how deflated the devotees were. And it also says that the Gopal Guru Goswami, Dayachandra, and other great Pandits, or not Pandits, Acharyas were there after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they're very, very pure, but they weren't very enthusiastic preachers, but they kept the Krishna consciousness alive. But it's such a difficult time for all the devotees. Can you imagine if what that happened to us? The temple's closed down, and it's all who knows what. And very sad time. So he was deputed to go to Orissa and preach. And it actually says here that the temple was overthrown, but you ever heard of Mansingh? Because, it's not that there were just one group of Muslims in India at the time. You had the Pantans and you had the Mughals, and they also fought with each other. Just like you may know in the Middle East, people fight a lot. You ever see that in the news? They don't get along either. So even in India, there were different groups of Muslims, and they fought with each other. And what happened is Mansingh was there in Jaipur, and he was the commander-in-chief of Akbar. And Akbar let him do whatever he wanted to do. The whole history of Jaipur is there, and that's why the deities from Vrindavan were brought there, because they were protected. And so much history is there with Mansingh. And he decided to go in and rescue the temple of Jagannath. And he did. He went in there, had a big battle, and kicked all the... Because what happened was they made an agreement that they would just leave the temple alone. But it only lasted for a little while. The prime minister of the particular king at that time passed away. Then his sons took over, and they decided, well, we're not going to do this. And they just moved back in and took over the temple. So he said, forget this. You guys can't follow the treaty. And he just came in, and there's a huge massacre, and just kicked them all out. And that was it. So again, the worship in the Jagannath temple started up again. But we'll read a little bit about Shyamananda Prabhu's preaching in Orissa. But this is a pastime that's described about how advanced Shyamananda Prabhu is and how he got the name Shyamananda. So... Okay, here it says, now, he was so advanced he could sit down in meditation and enter the spiritual world. That's the level of Krishna consciousness he was on. He'd go into meditation, into a spiritual body, which was a gopi actually, and then come back. And it's described that one time inside the particular Kalpa Kunja Kutir in Vrindavan, that's where Sri Sri and Radha Krishna eternally performed their ecstatic Rasa Leela dance, as they do tonight. Those who are spiritually unqualified are not able to perceive this reality even if they happen to be present at the exact location of the divine performance. However, accomplished devotees such as Dukhi Krishnadas, that was his name at this time, can see the polydimensional truth of spiritual reality in all of its glory. You know what that means? He could see the rasa dance. One day, as Radha Krishna and the gopis were enjoying the Rasa Leela, they were overcome with especially intense ecstasy. The rhythms of the music and dance mixed with the enthusiasm of the moment, creating indescribably volatile emotions. This compelled everyone to participate with an even greater urgency, dancing more forcefully with each moment. As the gopis moved their bodies to the beat of Krishna's heart, encircling him and Sri Radha, they played various musical instruments in spirited fashion. While doing this, the gopis jumped in and out of Radha and Krishna's vigorous dance. Soon their energetic shuffle became unwieldy, uncontrollable, and Radhika lost her nupura, ankle bracelet. So her ankle bracelet fell off. No one noticed the missing bracelet. In fact, Radhika had deliberately lost it just to offer special mercy to Krishnadas. So there actually was a plan the whole time. Who arrived the next morning to perform his usual sweeping service. So he just came in the morning, he would sweep that area, and he finds a bracelet beneath a tree. Krishnadas was enthralled by the bracelet's beauty. He could understand that it was an ornament of another dimension, of Radhika's world. The whole kunja was glowing from the light emanating from that ankle bracelet. Now that's a dead giveaway, right? Dead giveaway. If you have a piece of jewelry on and you light up the whole room, it's another dimension. So, and Krishnadas touched it to his head out of respect. At that moment, his body exhibited all varieties of ecstatic symptoms, such as horripilation and profuse sweating. He began to cry and experienced a sort of overflowing happiness. Deluged with divine love, he clasped the ankle bracelet to his heart and fainted. After a considerable period of time, Dukhi Krishnadas came to his senses and began calling the names of Radha and Krishna. Like the love-mad gopis, he ran here and there, filled with distress, looking for their lordships. In desperation, he frantically shouted again and again, "Where is Radha? Where is Krishna? Please, I must find them." Eventually, he calmed himself, tied the ankle bell around his neck, and continued cleaning the kunja. Considering that someone might steal it from him, he eventually buried the bracelet in a secret place. Meanwhile, after entering her room, Radha noticed the missing ankle bell. Knowing that she may have dropped it in the kunj, she ordered Lalita, her dear friend, to go there and search for it. Disguising herself as an elderly woman, Lalita Sundari hurried to the kunja in compliance with Radhika's request. When she arrived, she immediately saw Krishnadas and asked his name. "I am Dukhi Krishnadas," he said. "Have you seen my daughter-in-law's ankle bell?" she asked. "She is careless, and sometimes when I send her to the Jamuna to fetch water for me, she loses things. I cannot trust her. Tell me, please, did you find that ankle bracelet? I can give you a reward if you return it to me." "Tell me frankly," Dukhi Krishnadas asked with great suspicion, where do you live and what is your name?" "I am Radhadasi," Lalita replied, concealing her true identity. "I belong to a Kanoj Brahmin family of Braja." Hearing this, Krishnadas confessed, "Yes, I did find the ankle bell, but it cannot be yours. It belongs to Sri Radha. I know this because the moment I touched the ankle bell, I felt as if I were falling into a deep ocean of love of God. My heart swelled with unfaltering devotion and I fell unconscious. No ordinary ankle bracelet can induce such feelings." Can you imagine if they could? But what a business, you know. Okay. Listen to me, Krishnadas continued. "I will give it to you if it is truly yours, but first you must prove it. We will go to your village and show the bracelet to your neighbors. If they identify it as belonging to you, then I will happily relinquish it without any further questions." So he's being a little tough, right? Just wants to make sure it gets back to the right person. When Lalita heard this proposal, she became nervous and revealed the actual situation. "You are right," she admitted. "I am trying to deceive you. The ankle bell indeed belongs to Srimati Radharani. She is pleased with you, and as am I. Ask for any boon and it is yours. Then I will return the bracelet to Radhika, who will be grateful that you have recovered it." So this is how he got his name Shyamananda. Krishnadas did not want anything for himself. "O Thakurani," he said, "I must know your real identity. Only after you reveal your true self to me will I ask for the boon." Taking Krishnadas to a secluded place, she revealed her true identity as Lalita Sundari by telling him her name and her service to Radhika. She did not, however, take off her disguise as an elderly lady. Instead, she cautioned him, "Listen, Dukhi Krishnadas, you are anxious to see my real spiritual form, but such a revelation will be too much for you to bear." He countered her, "By your grace, anything is possible. If you give me the ability to bear it, then I will be able." Submitting to his intense desire, Lalita was ready to abandon her disguise, but she told him to first close his eyes. After several moments, she allowed him to look upon her holy form. Gazing at the incomparable beauty of Lalita Sundari, he fell unconscious and began to foam at the mouth. That's what she was talking about. Can you imagine something so beautiful, you just faint and start foaming at the mouth? Because the body, the senses just can't handle, it's what they call it, sensory overload. So this is spiritual sensory overload. As he came to his senses, she soothed him with kind words as he bowed to her feet with tears of love. She put one foot on his head, and he relished the dust that fell from her toes. Fully under the control of the spiritual energy, Krishnadas was unable to speak. He could only weep. At this point, Lalita again offered to grant him any boon he desired. "What else can I ask for?" Krishnadas queried. "My only desire is to serve Radha and Krishna under your guidance." Lalita smiled, knowing well the single-minded determination of young Krishnadas. "You shall certainly attain the association of Radha and Krishna," she said, "but you cannot serve them in this body. You must prepare yourself mentally, manasa seva, as a confidant of Sri Radha. Then you can come to the Kunja with Rupa Manjari and personally witness the Rasa Leela of Radha and Krishna. At that time you shall discover everyone's real identity. This is self-realization. For now, continue serving Jiva Goswami in this body and continue doing your service for the Kunja. You will attain your perfected body in due course." With this advice, she gave him a secret mantra, which she herself chants for constant vision of Radhika's form. Krishnadas then took her to an area in the Kunja where he had buried the ankle bracelet. The iron spade with which he had buried it had turned to bright gold, and he used it to unearth it. After digging it up with the spade, he put the bracelet to his head. Then he prostrated himself before Lalita's magnificent form and relinquished the bracelet, gently placing it in her hand. Upon giving the precious ornament to Lalita, he was surprised to see that she first touched to his head, moving it around in a mystical fashion. She said, "Let the touch of Radhika's feet be impressed upon your head." Suddenly, 2 vertical lines appeared on his forehead, and from the touch of the tip of the anklet, a dot appeared in the middle. From this moment, Lalita said, "You shall be known as Shyamananda, for you have brought bliss, Ananda, to Radha, Shama, by returning her anklet." So that's how he got the name Shyamananda. "Now you go back to your Kunja and former state, but do not tell anyone about this incident. You may disclose these events only to Jiva Goswami, but not to anyone else." Overwhelmed with love, Shyamananda bowed down, and when he arose, Lalita disappeared into the Kunj. So what's described here is he went back, and actually his whole bodily luster had changed, and these were permanent marks on his head. And devotees are wondering why he was in such great ecstasy, and Jiva Goswami could understand what had actually happened, and that his, he had completely changed, and his name was changed and everything. He asked him to call him Shyamananda, and his spiritual master heard about this from a distance, was wondering what was going on. Did he take reinitiation? And you're not supposed to take reinitiation. What's going on in Vrindavan? Because he was there in Orissa. And he eventually came to Vrindavan to sort it out. What's going on? Did you reinitiate my disciple? I trusted you, and this, that, and the other thing. And what's this on the forehead? And there was a whole pastime here. And the description in this particular book is that Gauridas Pandit, I forget the spiritual identity in the spiritual world, and anyways, he went back to the spiritual world and was told that I'll protect you and everything, because of all the Vaishnavas trying to rub it off his forehead and they couldn't do it, and that Gauridas Pandit personally came to Hridoy Chaitanya, his disciple, in a spiritual form, and told him, "No, it all happened. It all happened. It's true." And then actually Hridoy Chaitanya paid his obeisance to Shyamananda and said, "You're my spiritual master." He's like, so it was accepted that it was a spiritual incident. It wasn't made up, and he didn't go outside the Vaishnava etiquette. So that's an example, and there's other examples in this biography of other times he went into spiritual trance and went into the spiritual world. So that's the level of his Krishna consciousness, but still he was very much here, because he went to Orissa, and to preach Krishna consciousness very vigorously, because as we mentioned earlier, things were very, very difficult at that time because of the Muslim rule and not so many preachers. Everyone's Krishna, they were not very enlivened in their Krishna consciousness. So he went there to preach Krishna consciousness. I'll read about one personality here. Well, this is Shere Khan, some of the preaching. It reminds everyone of the Chankazi, because he went into Orissa and he was just preaching different villages, different people. People were following, all kinds of disciples. You mentioned, you can tell the story afterwards, but he has elephants for disciples. But it says here, he went to the Narottam's festival in Keturi, and then he went on to Orissa. It says, once there, it is said he married 3 times, but little information about his wives or the circumstances of his marriages. However, his preaching mission blossomed at this time, and all of Orissa was saturated with divine love. Okay, it says the Prem Vilas, that book relates an interesting episode that occurred just after Shyamananda's return to Orissa. During this period, he began the Nagara Sankirtan festival, leading his followers through the streets in ecstatic chanting and dancing. One day, Shere Khan, a militant Pantan, here it comes, and an important representative of the Muslim court, came upon Shyamananda's kirtan party. The very sight of blissful Hindus, like we have here in America, the Harinam party, blissful Hindus, infuriated him beyond words. He couldn't even say anything. He broke into the middle of the party and stopped it, threatening the devotees and insisting that they never do it again. Not heeding the words of the notorious Pantan, Shyamananda returned to the streets the very next day. So he's true Hare Krishna, right? Pantan, these are the Pantans. Yeah, because you have Moguls and Pantans. This is a different group. I forget what part of, they're maybe Afghanistan or something. The Pantans were from Afghanistan. They're all trying to divide up India. The next day, with even a larger kirtan party. Naturally, this vexed the Muslim soldier, who gathered his colleagues and again disrupted the kirtan. This time, however, the Muslim soldiers were violent, breaking instruments such as the mridungas and throwing the kartals into the river. At that point, Shyamananda began to shout in a high-pitched mystical way, calling upon the names of Radha and Krishna. When Shere Khan and his cohorts heard this sound, they began to cough blood and found that their beards and mustaches had caught on fire. Shocked at Shyamananda's potency, everyone left the place in a stupor. The next day, Shyamananda again led his Sankirtan party, and when Shere Khan saw the devotees approaching, he fell at Shyamananda's feet, begging for mercy. He said to Shyamananda, "My lord, in addition to coughing blood and the scorching of my facial hairs, I have been having a terrible nightmare. The Supreme Lord Allah appears to me and, slapping my face, repeatedly says that he is the same as your Alhada Swarup, or form of God that is revealed to the Vaishnavas. He shows me his golden complexion." Now, they say God has no form. You know, it's blasphemy to say God has form. So he's having this dream, it's Allah, and it's coming as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Allah is coming as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and says that in his most confidential feature, he is none other than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He further says that you are his favorite devotee and that I should be initiated into the chanting of the holy name by you alone. Shyamananda was moved by the Pantan's conversion and duly initiated him into the Gaudiya tradition. Like King Birham Bir of Srinivasa's fame, Shere Khan received the name Chaitanya Das after his initiation. This is Satyaraj's book. These. So is this Rasikananda Rasika Murari? Because it says he's the most important disciple. So this Rajachyuta was a king of Rani. He also converted. So we have time here. And when it says he left to do some preaching back to Vrindavan, he left Sher Khan, Chaitanya Das, in charge. And there's Rasikananda and Damodar to manage the movement in Orissa. And he went to Vrindavan to spend more time with his spiritual master and Jiva Goswami. There's a whole list of everyone he converted here. Famous landlord, Bhimadhana, Bhuyan, this landlord, that landlord, so many big personalities. Thousands of others followed them, and they followed Rasika and Shyamananda. And this way, he completely transformed the whole province or state of Orissa by his powerful preaching. So, I just wanted to draw this, because it's not that when one becomes on such a high level of Krishna consciousness, they can't preach anymore. Showing that even though he was on such a level, he could just sit there and enter in the spiritual world. But here he had his service to his spiritual master and the devotees, and he just very powerfully preached Krishna consciousness and converted and revived Krishna consciousness in the whole state of Orissa. Like that's amazing, his preaching. And there's a little something here at the end. I'll conclude with this. And it's the end of the book, because Shyamananda Prabhu is the last of the acharyas or devotees that he's writing about. He says, as Srinivasa Acharya was the embodiment of Mahaprabhu's ecstasy, so that's who Srinivasa Acharya was, the embodiment of Lord Chaitanya's ecstasy. Narottam Das Thakur was that of Nityananda Prabhu, his ecstasy. Shyamananda is said to have been the embodiment of Advaita Acharya's ecstasy. That's who he is. Their pastimes are inconceivable, and the benefit that one derives from merely hearing them is unimaginable. Eternally liberated souls such as these come into our world for a specific purpose, and their pastimes serve to purify and enlighten all of them who will listen. All souls who transcend imperfection, as souls who transcend imperfection, they are naturally beyond any need for practice or sadhana in any devotional discipline. Still, they manifest the Leela of gradually attaining perfection, just to set an example for the many generations of Vaishnavas who will follow. So, because it is described in these three different accounts who these personalities are in their Nitya Leela, residents of Vrindavan, gopis, and so on. But still, they perform the sadhana for our benefit, to understand like that. So, any questions or other stories about? Okay, microphone, please.
So this is from the Samadhi book. Sri Rasikananda Prabhu, Rasika Murari, appeared as the son of a king. He became a perfect sage, Gaudiya Vaishnava scholar, Rasika Bhakta, and the most beloved disciple of Sri Shyamananda Prabhu. On Shyamananda Prabhu's order, Rasikananda became the head pujari and served his guru's deity of Govindaji with total dedication. His attentive, loving service increased Govindaji's beauty and pleasure. Rasika Murari enchanted the devotees with his unprecedented deity service. After firmly establishing Govindaji's worship, he accepted Shyamananda's order to preach. He traveled widely for 40 years, influencing everyone with the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It doesn't say where he traveled, I guess, in his Orissa. Rasikananda delivered everyone from pious royal families to Muslims, outcasts, agnostics, atheists, and even wild animals. One time, some mad elephants attacked Rasikananda. Calmly, he chanted, "Gauranga, Gauranga, Krishna, Krishna," while sprinkling water on the rampaging beasts. The elephants immediately stopped charging, humbly bowed their heads, raised their trunks, and bellowed, "Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna." At the time of leaving his body, Rasikananda began a powerful kirtan. Then he left this world by entering into the Chirachora Gopinath deity in Ramuna, Orissa. Wow. Devastated in separation, his disciples dropped their mridangas, kartals, and their bodies. The pushpa sabadis of all these pure devotees stand near the temple. Rasikananda Prabhu's Pushpa Samadhi stands next to Shamananda Prabhu near the temple of Radha Shamasundar. There's a whole book about Rasikananda that was written.
Did you just say that when their spiritual master went into the body of the deity, they all dropped their kartals, their mridungas, and their body? They all left their bodies.
They all left their bodies. Now that's dedication. It's just one amazing story after another, isn't it?
Okay. So, any questions or comments? Or so it's very, very yes.
One. What is Shyamananda translation? What does this translation mean?
Oh, did you miss that? That name was given. Shyamananda was given to him by Lalita, because by returning that ankle bracelet, he gave great ananda to Radha, and one of Radha's name is Shama. So Shyamananda, that's where he got the name, because he gave such great pleasure to Radharani by returning that bracelet. And of course, it was all her arrangement to give him some mercy. But and that mark on the forehead was permanent. I wonder if devotees will ever get permanent tilak. I don't know, maybe. Then you have to worry about it anymore. Well, I know the Sri Vaisnavas do that. There's branding, but I mean, just, I remember Gunagar Maharaj was trying all these different formulas, because we used to go Harinam for hours and hours with the bhaktas, and it all sweats off. So he was trying alum and different things, and just so it would always stay on all day long, and these little fun, nothing really worked that well, But can they do this color though? That's the thing. They're probably not. It'd be like Radha Kuntilak, and we're not supposed to do that. Okay, so we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Shyamananda, Bamsi Bandhana, Balaram Rasayatra, and Sri Krishna Vasant Rasayatra.